start the second part off on PlayStation, we're going to be starting where the PlayStation began, on the PlayStation 1. We have the Metal Gear Solid along with Omega Boost. I'm a big fan of Metal Gear Solid. I think it's in my top 10 favorite games of all time, just for the amount of creativity and new kind of gameplay experience it brought to the table. And Omega Boost I haven't played yet, but I bought it off the recommendation of Mark from Classic Game Room, so I'm excited to give it a try in the future. And secondly, to round off my PlayStation 1 collection, I have both of the original Grand Theft Auto games. I haven't played these yet either, but I think it would be fun to go back and look at where the series began, especially seeing as Grand Theft Auto 5 is still selling like crazy years after it's been released. Continuing on with the Grand Theft Auto trend and also into the PlayStation 2, got the Grand Theft Auto trilogy on PlayStation 2. It comes with Grand Theft Auto Vice City, San Andreas, and 3. All really great games in their own right. Here we have the God of War games, God of War 1 and 2 on PlayStation 2. They're pretty decent, but I wouldn't say God of War is my favorite franchise of all time, but still, they're pretty cool, and I think they're must-buys for the PlayStation 2. And continuing with the 1 and 2 trend, we have Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2. I have the Kingdom Hearts collection, which you'll see coming up here in a little bit when we get to the PS4, so I haven't really played these a whole lot, but I will be starting the PS4 collection soon. Shane's a big fan of Kingdom Hearts, so he's part of the reason why I got into this series to begin with. Here we have two first-person shooters, Killzone and 13. I really liked 13 when I played it. It's a little rough around the edges, but I think it was a really unique kind of comic book style first-person shooter. Killzone is really rough around the edges. That one's a little bit harder to play. If you want to play the Killzone series, it's PlayStation's premier shooter, I suppose. Here's two classics from the PlayStation 2 era, Silent Hill 2 and Shadow of the Colossus. I started Silent Hill 2, only got about an hour or so into it, but I'm going to be going back to it here soon, and the same goes for Shadow of the Colossus. This version is kind of framey. I don't know if it's my disc or my PS2. Like, it was really hard for me to actually like move around. So I might pick up a remastered version of it and play it that way, but these two are both in my backlog right now. And as I've stated on this channel multiple times now, I am a pretty big Fallout fan, so of course I have Fallout Brotherhood of Steel on the PlayStation 2. I got about halfway through this one, and I'm looking forward to going back through it and possibly making a video on it in the future. It's very different from Fallout games that we're used to, and it's also very weird and considered non-canon, but a nice game to have in the collection for if you're a fan and want to have everything Fallout related. That does it for the PS2, so let's move on to the PSP. Got a couple of loose games here, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Vegas and Tom Clancy's End War. Decent games, I suppose, for the PSP. Next up is Ace Combat X, Skies of Deception, and also Need for Speed Shift. I put countless hours into Need for Speed Shift, and I really like that game on the PSP. And Ace Combat X, I haven't had too much time to play with. That was actually a game that my dad had and played through a little bit of, so yeah, pretty neat. Next up, going back to it with Square, we have Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII, along with Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep was actually the first game in the Kingdom Hearts series that I played and beat, and Crisis Core I had shortly after that and played through it as well. Not a huge Final Fantasy fan, but that game was okay. I prefer Kingdom Hearts over Final Fantasy. Next up, we got some collections here. We have the Atari Classics Evolved collection, along with Ultimate Board Game collection. The board game collection is a decent compilation of classic board games like you'd think. And the Atari Classics Evolved collection is pretty cool because you can play the original games with these like redone graphics and little gameplay tweaks, so that's pretty cool. And finally, rounding out the PSP collection is a returning game from the Nintendo video, Star Wars The Force Unleashed, and also Little Big Planet. Little Big Planet is awesome. I think if you own PlayStation consoles, you should all have Little Big Planet. It's a great game to just sit down and play. And this version of Force Unleashed has another special feature that the other versions don't have. It's these cool little side mission-y kind of things that you can do. Not the ideal way to play the game, but it has its own features if you're into that sort of thing. So, my PS3, a group of friends and I, we actually went out one day out for lunch and decided to run by our local GameStop. And we had Chick-fil-A for lunch that day, I remember, because my one friend reached into his pocket as we were walking out and decided to throw away his receipt. And inside the trash can, right on the top, outside this GameStop, we find a PS3, a fat PS3, a copy of Killzone 2, and a controller. And so we rescued it from the trash, cleaned it up, and of course it worked. So that PS3 is now in my collection, and I have been collecting and playing a lot of games on it. So here I'll run through, just pretty quickly, a bunch of the games that I have in this little slideshow. Many of the games in my collection were actually gifts from my friends, so I'm really thankful that they think of me whenever they have some games that they're willing to get rid of or just want to give me some games. Now the PlayStation 4 is my current console of choice. That's the console I'll do the majority of my gaming on. And I have a lot of games for it, so just like the PS3, I'm going to be running through most of my collection here in quick succession. And here to close off the collection are a couple of my steelbooks for games that I really enjoy. And so that ends part 2 of my video game collection, focusing on the PlayStation consoles. In part 3, I'm going to be focusing on the original Xbox as well as the Xbox 360. So, if you like these game collection videos, stay tuned to see the epic conclusion of my game collection video series. See you in the next one.